This is the start of the championship heat number 1. These are the quicker qualifiers in this field. And we've got a whole bunch of different kinds of boats running, Steve.
Yes, we do. We've got the Allisons, we've got the Rolls-Royce Merlins, we've got outboards, we've got supercharged automotive engines. It should be a very interesting race. As the 1-minute clock reaches 45 seconds, the field heads down for the starting line.
And of course, as he said earlier, the timing is critical here. You cross the line too early before that little clock closes up there, and it's a 1-lap penalty. So it's tantamount to being heaved out of the race, Steve.
Terrific start by Ron Armstrong on the U80 boat, and he immediately goes to the lead. That's Armstrong on the outside as they go into turn number 1.
You notice that big set of fins up there. That's like a wing on a race car. It keeps the tail down and is a stabilizing factor, although you'll see some of the other boats in this race are not using those big fins, but they seem to be on most of the really fast boats.
Well, Brock, here we get a look at the leader, Ron Armstrong, in U80. You mentioned the wings, the Australian boat, Bill Baberton, who was in this heat. They took a look at the wings when they got here and said, aha, Australians love wings. Witness the America's Cup. So they built one, put it on it, but it just didn't work right. Here's Renato Molinari, who is in the 5th spot with the twin outboards from Italy. Renato is quite a few boat lengths behind this man, Ron Armstrong. Earlier, just before the start of this heat, Brock Yates had a chance to talk to Ron Armstrong before he climbed into his unlimited hydroplane.
How's the boat running?
Oh, really good. We couldn't be pleased with any more than what it is. Everything looks good. We've had some problems, but we think we got everything handled now.
Water good for you today?
Yeah, should be. We haven't been out yet. I haven't really got any times of the clock, so I'm just going to have to wing it and play it by ear. So it's kind of a good tune-up heat for us.
Well, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Currently running second in this championship heat is the U40 boat, Miss Houston, driven by John Prevost of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But he's quite a few boat lengths behind Ron Armstrong. Armstrong was the fastest qualifier in this particular heat at a little over 113 miles an hour.
Well, there's one of the boats without the wings, Steve, that we talked about earlier. He and Baberton have decided not to run with the wings, although, as we understand it, you can put them on if you really need them. And it looks like Ron Armstrong is running just fine with his wing set.
And it looks like, Brock, that the wing actually does work, and we can see it as that boat is settled down in the water, tight to the water. It's not bouncing around, moving around.
He sure is. It's running really well. That's Ron Armstrong coming down the back straight as we see John Prevost there on the right side of your screen. He's come to a halt. Engine problems or whatever has put him out, and that puts George Johnson into second place in the U8 Executone boat, Steve.
And that is the cleanest, prettiest boat, I think, on the water, Brock.
It sure is pretty, Steve, and that puts Merlin-powered, Rolls-Royce-powered engine boats in 1 and 2. But look at this stock block boat of Terry Turner, whistled by Armstrong.
Little hot rod power from Southern California, the pair of supercharged Chevrolet passenger car engines. Really, in fact, it's handling very well on the inside, Brock.
Well, Turner is doing a fine job. That's one of the older conventional boats, and look at Armstrong. He's about ready to go into that Marino over there. But he gets it back under control. He did go way wide. Turner tucked in tight against the buoys and has himself a little bit of a lead. And boy, he came out of nowhere with that twin-engine Chevrolet-powered boat.
Just a terrific battle for second spot between George Johnson on the outside, the aircraft engine, and automotive power for Terry Turner on the inside.
And to get a really good look at the contrast in the hull designs here, Steve. On the inside, Terry Turner in the older front-engine conventional hull, and Johnson on the outside in that cab-over rear engine. Interesting, too, Steve, that probably Terry Turner's got himself somewhat a smaller displacement than Armstrong. The Rolls-Royce Merlin engines have a displacement of about 2,250 cubic inches, whereas Terry Turner's two stock blocks, maybe, what, 1,000 cubic inches total, 500 apiece?
That's exactly right. And a lot of teams have tried automotive power, Brock. In your opinion, why has it not been more successful?
Well, I would think it's just a question of not enough time and effort being put forth in it. These big aircraft engines have been pretty readily available, so I don't think anybody spent any time developing these things. But boy, the way Terry Turner is just smoking around this course with those two Chevrolets, you got to think there's a big future for them.
A big future, if for no other reason than the aircraft engines may someday just literally disappear. As you said earlier, they're over 40 years of age. The tractor pullers are now using them to a great extent. They're blowing them up. The airplane racers are blowing them up. And everybody is hunting all over the country, all over the world, trying to find a secret cache of those engines.
and there just probably isn't any left. But here's old Terry Turner with 1,000 less cubic inches hanging right there with George Johnson in that executive tone boat. So it bodes well for people who might be thinking about building some stock block and limited hydroplanes.
But I'll tell you something else, Brock. Terry is having to twist those Chevrolet engines almost double the RPM of that aircraft power plant.
You're absolutely right. And the general punishment he's taking in that front engine boat is a lot more than George Johnson. Although, of course, a stock block setup could be put in one of the more modern rear engine boats. That boat of Terry's is a pretty old hull.
Well, boat racing fans all over the country, Brock, are watching today's action very, very carefully. The APBA understanding that they've got to take a look at some of these other combinations, and this is really the first time that they've all been together at one event.
And it sure is fun to watch them all racing around here at Clear Lake. All the V8s, the outboards, and in particular, this leader right here, Ron Armstrong, in that big Rolls-Royce Merlin-powered boat of his. He just hasn't had any problems at all, and he's unchallenged at this particular moment, Steve.
Looked like he was signaling something to the crew on the dock there, Brock.
Yeah, well, he's got probably a pit crew out there. These boats do not carry radios. I'm not exactly sure why. Oh, poor Bill Baberton, all the way from Australia. He is dead in the water at the moment.
But boy, these two are very much alive, battling for second place. George Johnson has to go hard left rudder to avoid hitting the Australian boat that's dead in the water. But George now is pulling out and taking over second place from Terry Turner, Brock.
Yeah, and you wonder whether maybe Terry's got himself some engine problems, because he has fallen off the pace a bit as George Johnson grabs hold of a solid grip on second place. But I don't think he'll be able to overtake the leader at this particular point. Ron Armstrong seems to be in command, Steve.
So much so, Brock, that he'd have to blow an engine. Something disastrous would have to happen right now for him to lose this race. Of course, with boats, when the power goes away, they just come to an immediate halt. You don't have the coasting capability of a race car.
Nor do they have any paddles on board, so you just are out if they stop. As Ron Armstrong takes that giant checkered flag. Got to have a flag big enough so you can see it all the way front at 2 Mile Court, Steve.
Well, you certainly do. There's just a lot of things you have to do differently in boat racing than you would in any other kind of motorsports, especially the start that we've seen that is so unique. And here, back in third spot, is Terry Turner, the U5 boat with the twin Chevrolets up in front of him. He's still trying to catch George Johnson, but it doesn't look good for him either.
Boy, that's a rough ride. All that noise, all that smoke and fumes and exhaust pipes right out in front of you in that boat. What a courageous guy old Terry Turner is, but he's not going to be able to catch this man. George Johnson, the Washington driver, on his way to a solid finish here in this first heat of the championship division.
So Ron Armstrong coasts into the dock, the crew ready with a line to tie him up, and he's got to be tickled to death winning this championship division, heat number 1. They don't have to worry about unbuckling in these boats, Brock. You just stand up. And here, taking second place, is George Johnson in the U8.
So we'll be back with more from the Clear Lake Thunderbolt Regatta after these messages.